Hey everybody, Sarah B. Hansen here, ready to teach you all a fun lesson on how to do a cloudless sky, like a clear summer sky. It's going to be a gradiated wash today with a tiny little bit of landscape in the bottom and mostly some blue, dark blue at the top, gradiates down to almost light, a touch of yellow down here, and then just kind of a suggestion of a landscape at the bottom. So first, to start this project off, you can, on your watercolor paper, draw a rectangle. I did it in pencil first, and then I drew a Sharpie over it. And then with your pencil, indicate at the very bottom, I mean, maybe this is 1/8 of the way up, higher on this side, a little lower on this side, a little landscape line. You can kind of see it there. Just a line. It's just what you're doing is you're indicating where you're going to stop your water and your sky. Okay, so that's just an indication so you don't forget. Okay, and a light line with pencil. Don't press too hard. So to begin with, and this is the part where I'll move probably pretty quickly because I don't want my wash to dry. I'll take my 1.5 inch sable brush and dip it into my clean clear water, drag it across the surface of the water container, and that gets some of the water off so it's not dripping everywhere like it just did. So we're going to go ahead and place on this paper a very light coating of water. So I don't know if you can see this or not, but I've got a nice pretty wash in here. If you see little holes when you hold it sideways, you might want to grab those. Make sure the whole thing is wet, all right? And that surface right up to your horizon line or your land line. Okay, you don't want water, rivers, puddles, or pools. So to get rid of those, I basically hold my paper up like this and at an angle and hold a paper towel to the very corner and let it just soak up a bunch of that water. While the surface is still wet, you want to add your wash in. So this is called a gradiated wash. And a gradiated wash is basically starting at the top with a darker color, or in any area, but in this case it's going to be the top of our painting, with a darker color and gradually going into a lighter value. I'm changing the color midway with the cobalt just to give it a little bit of variety, okay? So you'll see me move fairly quickly. So again, wetting my 1.5 inch wash brush, dragging it across the surface, but not drying it off right now on the sponge or a towel or anything. I'm just dragging it across the surface so it's nice and wet. Going into the ultramarine blue, and I'm stirring it up quite a bit because these particles that are in the paint will sometimes be little chunks and they'll make streaks in your wash. So you want to get a nice amount of paint so it gets kind of like a texture of milk. So we're going to add a lot of color to that. We're trying to homogenize this with some water so that it doesn't have those streaky parts. Okay, coming on across the top with this ultramarine blue. Just laying it in nice and gentle. Rinsing off my brush now, dragging it across the top of the water container and going into the cobalt. Doing the same thing with the cobalt, stirring it around so I don't get any of these weird little streaks. And then just kissing that next area with the cobalt. Bring it down just a little bit. I'm not going back into these areas at all. I'm tipping my paper a little bit, so if you have a surface like this, you might just want to have something underneath the top of it so it has gravity works towards you, for you, with you. And then this is just clear water. So what I'm doing at the bottom is I'm dampening up that edge and lightening it up so it's not a line, and it's coming down towards my horizon line as a very gradual, soft wash, okay? It's got some variety in there, but not too much. Now I'm grabbing just a teeny bit of this transparent yellow and turning this around a little bit. I'm going to drop in that transparent yellow right at the horizon line. So you can see there's not very much of that yellow going on. It's very, very soft. And I can tip this paper around a little bit to move that yellow up into the blue a little bit more or down towards the horizon line to homogenize those colors. So now go ahead and sop up some of that yellow and some of the rivers. This is a little bit damp down here, and because I like my soft edges in my paintings, I'm going to go ahead and add my landscape before this dries. And what that means is some of it will shoot up into this horizon line. That is something that you have to make a choice on. If you don't want that color to shoot up into here and be a soft, soft edge, then you want to dry it right now. But because I do like that soft edge and that kind of suggestion of trees or whatever, I'm going to use my round now and go into a little bit of Quinocridone Burnt Orange, which I love, by the way. It's my favorite color. And very lightly with that, let's try to put this here. No, it's going to work better if I hold it, I think. Coming across the top of there, just touching that yellow just a little bit. And what that does is that gives me a softness at the very top of this. And then, as I love serpentine green, I'll go ahead and grab a little bit of that while the quinacridone is still wet, pull it into the bottom here. And this is all going to move on its own. I'm grabbing a little tiny bit of Aussie Red Gold to put in what I would like to call the focal point down here. So I'm intensifying that color right down there. So now you can see this can become a little bit of a suggestion of a landscape. And what I will do right now, and what I would encourage you to do at this point, is to go ahead and blow dry this so that all of it gets nice and dry. So we're going to pause here. So right now, because of this dark line, to me it looks a little bit like a cloudy sky. So let's see if we can fix that. And what I would do is add a glaze to this, okay? So with a glaze, you would probably in this case, because you want a nice smooth wash all the way down to the landscape, or down to the ground, you want to go ahead and wet the whole thing again. And then do the same steps again and try to just smooth it out a little bit. So let's do it one more time. And I'm still using that same water because it's blue, it's not a big deal. However, if it has a little bit of color to it, you may want to go ahead and get a fresh amount of water before you do this. So I'm wetting up to the landscape again, wetting that whole sky area very lightly with a brush that's not scrubbing. Soaking up the edge again, so I get rid of all the rivers. And then let's do the same steps again. So one more time, I'm going to get that Ultramarine Blue, nice and homogenized here. Stir it around so there's no streaks when I apply it. The darkest on top, and then it works its way down to getting lighter below. So coming into the top here, I'm going to grab more. Let's make this a little bit more of a, I'm going to use all my Ultramarine Blue. Don't be worried about using your paint. No big deal, right? Okay, and I don't think I'm going to use my Cobalt this time. I'm just going to come all the way down here, pulling that color with me as I go, rinsing off my brush. And now I'm not going to use the yellow this time. Let's see if we can drag that color all the way down here. So now you can see I've smoothed out the color quite a bit. You see how smooth that is? So that evened all of those little, if you had a little fish up here or whatever, it evened that whole thing out. Do you see how fast I did that? I didn't want my paper to dry so I don't get weird little hard edges inside my painting. I want it to be very soft and very smooth, okay? Okay, look at that. Didn't that wash turn out beautiful? It's nice and light down here at the horizon, darker at the top. There's not a lot of lines. I don't see any lines. It's a very soft wash. Because I did that second wash and I got rid of almost most of the white in here, there's not a lot of white paper. You compare this color to that color. This is definitely darker than this color. So it makes the whole painting feel a little bit more like a mid-tone painting. So I want to add a little bit of punch to it. So let's go into the landscape down here. I'm gonna wet my round brush, get some Quinocridone Burnt Orange, quite a bit on my brush. Maybe add just a touch of green to it. And down here at the bottom, basically, I'm going to just add a little bit of texture. And now I'm softening, so here's how I'm going to soften some edges. I'm getting, I'm washing my brush off, dragging it across the surface of the water container, dampening it on a paper towel, and then touching the edge of some of these stroke lines so I don't have such hard, definitive edges in the landscape. So I get just a touch of softness in there, suggesting, I don't know, trees or something. Grab a little bit of this yellow again. And now we have a landscape with just a little more punch to it down here. You can even add maybe a little bit of a blue or something to give it maybe a tree down there. I don't know, you don't want to fuss with it too much. You want this painting to be mostly about the sky. And then if you want to, you can blow dry this again and add a Sharpie. I'll do that to this one so you can see what that looks like. Hang on just a second. Okay, so as you can see, I came in with a fine point Sharpie and just added those lines right in here, following maybe a little bit of the landscape, what it might do in like a little valley here, some grasses, trees, whatever. Very simple. You don't want to take away from your beautiful gradient sky up there. So very soft edges on the top here too. So really fun, and gosh, I hope you guys enjoy doing this. Facebook me, send me pictures of how it turned out. You guys, please take care of yourself out there today and enjoy life, enjoy painting. Bye-bye.